My name is Lily, and I want to share a story with you today. It's a story I have kept in my heart for a long time. I ask you to listen to it completely because it is special to me, and maybe, just maybe, it will touch your heart too. It all started on a warm, golden evening when the sun was slowly dipping into the horizon, painting the sky with shades of orange, pink, and purple. The air smelled faintly of jasmine, and a gentle breeze made the leaves on the trees dance softly. I was sitting on the old wooden swing in my grandmother's backyard. My feet barely touched the ground, and I pushed myself gently with my toes. Watching the world in front of me, "Lily, dinner is ready." Grandma's soft, sweet voice called out. I smiled and jumped off the swing. As I walked toward the small, cozy house, I saw Grandma setting the table with her usual grace. She was wearing her floral apron, the one with tiny blue roses that I always loved. Her hair was tied back in a loose bun, and her eyes sparkled warmly as she looked at me. "Come, sit," she said with a smile. Pulling out a chair, I sat down, and she placed a plate of warm vegetable stew in front of me. She always made it just right, neither too spicy nor too bland. It was perfect, just like everything she did. As we ate, she suddenly paused and looked at me thoughtfully. "Lily," she said softly, "there's something I want to show you after dinner. It's a little secret of mine, but you have to promise me you'll keep it safe." Her eyes twinkled with a mix of mystery and tenderness. I felt a rush of excitement. Grandma had a secret. I nodded eagerly. After dinner, she took my hand and led me down the creaky wooden steps that led to the basement. I had always been a little afraid of the basement. It was dimly lit, with shelves full of old boxes and jars. But when Grandma was with me, I felt safe. She walked over to a dusty wooden trunk in the corner. With a soft sigh, she opened it. Inside, there were piles of old letters tied with red ribbons, faded photographs, and a small, delicate music box. She picked up one of the letters and smiled faintly. She whispered, "Was from your grandfather. He used to write me letters every week when he was away." Her voice was thick with emotion. I watched as she slowly unfolded one of the letters. The paper was yellowed with age, but the handwriting was still clear and steady. "My dearest Margaret," she read aloud, her voice trembling slightly, "I miss you with every breath I take. The stars are not as bright without you. I count the days until I can hold your hand again." I stared at her, wide-eyed. I had never seen her like this before. Her eyes glistened with tears, but she was smiling. "He loved me so much," she whispered, pressing the letter to her chest. "Even when we were apart, his heart was with me." I felt a lump at my throat. The love in her voice, the softness. In her eyes, it was more beautiful than any fairy tale I had ever read. She then picked up the music box. It was tiny, painted with delicate pink roses. She slowly wound it, and a soft, haunting melody filled the room. The tune was familiar, but I couldn't place it. "This," she said with a gentle smile, "was her song. Whenever I was sad, he would play it for me." I leaned closer, listening to the delicate notes. My heart felt warm and full, as if I was holding a little piece of their love in my hands. After a while, she carefully placed the letters and music box back in the trunk and turned to me. "Lily," she said softly, "there's one more thing I want you to see." She opened a small velvet box and held it out to me. Inside was a delicate silver locket. She slowly placed it in my hand. "Open it," she whispered. I carefully pressed the tiny clasp. The locket opened to reveal a small black and white photograph of my grandparents on their wedding day. They were young, laughing, and holding each other close. "Grandma." "It's beautiful," I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. She placed her hand over mine. "Lily," she said, her eyes shimmering, "this locket is for you. I want you to have it. It carries our loved mine and your grandfather's. I want you to carry it with you always." I shook my head. "But Grandma, this is yours. It's special." She smiled softly. "That's why I want you to have it, my dear. So you will always know that love, true love, is never far away." I held the locket close to my heart. I could feel the warmth of her hands lingering on the silver, and I suddenly felt like I was holding a piece of magic. For the next few weeks, I wore the locket everywhere. It made me feel safe, like I had a secret piece of Grandma with me. But then, one evening, everything changed. I came home from school and found my parents sitting at the kitchen table, their eyes red and puffy. My heart sank. "Lily," my mother whispered, her voice cracking, "Grandma, she's gone." The world seemed to stop. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. My legs gave out and I fell to the floor. My mother rushed to hold me, but I couldn't stop sobbing. That night, I clutched the locket tightly in my hand, pressing it to my chest. I opened it again and again, staring at the picture inside. I felt like if I stared long enough, I could somehow bring her back. For days, I barely spoke. I wandered through the house, searching for traces of her. The scent of her lavender perfume still lingered on her sweater. The swing in the backyard still creaked softly in the wind. One afternoon, I found myself in the basement, sitting by the trunk. I opened it slowly, my hands trembling. I pulled out one of Grandpa's letters. "My dearest Margaret," I read aloud through my tears, "I miss you with every breath I take. The stars are not as bright without you. I count the days until I can hold your hand again." And then it hit me. She was not truly gone. She was with him, holding his hand once more. I closed my eyes and imagined them dancing to their song, their hands intertwined, smiling the way they did in the photograph. I imagined them happy, free, and filled with love. From that day on, I carried the locket with me everywhere. It became my treasure, my reminder that love never truly leaves. It stays in our hearts, in the letters, in the music, in the memories, and in the moments we hold close. And every time I hear a song that reminds me of Grandma, I close my eyes and smile, knowing she is dancing somewhere with Grandpa hand in hand, in a place where the stars are always bright. If you made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If it touched your heart, please subscribe and like this for my hard work. It helps me share more beautiful and meaningful stories with you. And remember, love never truly leaves it. lives and the memories we keep. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, I found myself visiting Grandma's backyard more and more often. The old wooden swing was still there, gently swaying in the breeze as if waiting for her to return. I would sit there for hours, watching the golden light of the sunset melt into the horizon, just like we used to do together. One evening, as I sat quietly on the swing, I pulled the silver locket from beneath my sweater. I pressed it against my lips and closed my eyes. "Grandma, are you still watching over me?" I whispered softly. The wind suddenly picked up, carrying the scent of jasmine through the air, the same scent that always clung to her favorite scarf. I smiled faintly, imagining it was her gentle way of saying, "I'm here." That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of the wooden floors. I rolled onto my side and opened the locket again. I stared at the black and white photo of my grandparents, their smiles forever frozen in time. Tears welled in my eyes, but this time they weren't tears of sadness. They were warm, soft tears, the kind that come when you miss someone with love instead of sorrow. The next morning, I decided to do something I hadn't done in months. I went to the local park, the one where Grandma used to take me on Sundays. The park was nearly empty, with only a few children playing by the swings and a couple walking, hand in hand along the path. I sat on a wooden bench near the pond, watching the ducks glide across the still water. An elderly man sat a few feet away from me, throwing crumbs to the birds. His hands were weathered and wrinkled, but gentle and steady. He smiled faintly as the birds eagerly gathered around him. For a moment, I saw Grandpa in him, the same kind eyes, the same patient smile. I suddenly felt the urge to speak. "Do you come here often?" I asked softly. He turned to me, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Every morning," he said, with a nod. "My wife used to love this park. I still feel close to her when I'm here." My heart fluttered. I glanced at the silver locket in my hand, and without thinking, I gently opened it, showing him the tiny photograph inside. "This was my grandmother," I whispered, my voice trembling slightly. "She used to come here with me too." The man's eyes softened as he gazed at the photo. He smiled, and for a brief moment, I saw something familiar in his expression, the quiet understanding of someone who knew what it was like to hold on to love, even after it had slipped from their hands. "She must have loved you very much," he said kindly. I nodded. "She did. She still does." The man smiled faintly, his eyes glistening. "You know," he said softly, "love like that never really goes away. It stays in the things they loved. The way the sun feels on your face, the way the rain smells on a warm day. They're still there. You just have to notice." His words stayed with me. They sank into my heart and made a home there. After that day, I started noticing the small things more. I saw Grandma in the wildflowers that grew along the path, the ones she used to pick and press between the pages of her books. I felt her in the warmth of the morning sun and heard her laughter and the playful chirping of the birds. One rainy afternoon, I sat by the window with a cup of tea the way Grandma used to. I opened her old music box and let the soft, haunting melody fill the room. And for the first time in months, I danced, slowly, softly, alone. But I wasn't truly alone. I closed my eyes and imagined her arms around me, guiding me the way she once had. I could almost hear her gentle voice whispering, "Just follow the music, Lily." And so I danced with the memory of her love, feeling her presence with every step. One morning, as I was getting ready for school, I stood in front of the mirror and carefully fastened the locket around my neck. I pressed my fingers against it and whispered, "I love you, Grandma." And just as I turned to leave, a faint beam of sunlight streamed through the window, landing right on the locket. It shimmered softly in the golden light. I smiled. "Yeah." I whispered, "I know. You love me too." From that day on, I carried her with me everywhere. Not just in the locket, but in my heart. Her love became my strength. Whenever I felt afraid or lost, I would hold the locket and remember her voice, her laughter, her gentle touch. And when life felt too heavy, I would walk to the park, sit by the pond, and watch the ducks glide across the water. I would remember the old man's words. I would close my eyes and listen to the sound of the wind moving through the trees, and I would feel her there, because love, real, true, pure love, never leaves. It lingers in the air, in the light, in the smallest of moments. It waits quietly in the places they once stood, and it walks with us in the steps we take. And even though Grandma was no longer here in person, she was everywhere in the swing that swayed gently in the evening breeze, in the fading notes of the music box, in the petals of the jasmine that bloomed each spring. She was there, and she always would be. If you're still listening, thank you for sharing this journey with me. If this story touched your heart even a little, please subscribe and leave a like. It means so much and helps me share more beautiful and meaningful stories with you. And remember, love never fades. It simply changes shape. It becomes the wind, the stars, the flowers, and the memories that stay with us forever. As the years passed, the silver locket never left my side. It became more than just a piece of jewelry. It became a part of me. Whenever I was nervous or unsure, I would press my fingers against it and feel an unexplainable warmth, as if Grandma was gently holding my hand, reminding me that I wasn't alone. I grew older. I graduated from school and eventually moved to a small apartment in the city. Life became busy and sometimes noisy, but in the quiet moments, I still felt her. On rainy nights, when the city lights reflected in the puddles on the sidewalk, I would close my eyes and hear the faint melody of her music box playing softly in my heart. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home feeling exhausted and empty. The world had been moving too fast, and I felt like I could barely keep up. I dropped my bag on the floor, kicked off my shoes, and sank into the armchair by the window. I stared out at the city lights, my eyes unfocused. The familiar weight of the locket rested against my chest, and without thinking, I opened it. The tiny photograph of my grandparents stared back at me, their smiles so full of life and love. And suddenly, as if no time had passed, I was back in Grandma's cozy kitchen. I could smell the warm stew she used to make, hear the gentle hum of her voice, and feel her soft hand resting over mine. Tears welled in my eyes, and I smiled through them. It amazed me how a single photograph, just a tiny piece of paper, could hold so much love. That night, I found myself pulling out an old box of memories I had brought with me when I moved. I slowly opened it, and there they were, her letters, neatly tied with the same red ribbons. I ran my fingers over the edges of the paper, feeling the faint ridges of her handwriting. I picked up the first letter and slowly unfolded it. The ink had faded slightly over the years, but her words were still clear. "My dearest Lily," it began. "If you are reading this, it means I am no longer there to hold your hand. But know this, I will always be with you. In the morning, sun that kisses your cheek, and the laughter of children that fills the air, and the gentle touch of the breeze on your face. I will be there, always." I pressed the letter against my chest, unable to hold back my tears. She had written these words for me, knowing that one day I would meet them. And in that moment, I realized something. She had left me a gift far greater than the locket or the music box or even the letters. She had left me her love woven into every memory, every word, every melody. A love that would never fade. The next morning, as the sun rose over the city, I felt a strange calmness wash over me. I put on my coat, fastened the locket around my neck, and walked down to the park, the one with the pond and the ducks. It was colder now, and the trees were bare, their branches stretching toward the sky. I sat on the same wooden bench where I had once spoken to the elderly man, but he wasn't there this time. Only a few sparrows hopped along the ground. Pecking at the dry grass. I stared at the pond, watching the faint ripples on the water surface. Slowly, I opened the locket once more. The photo was still there, unchanged, just as I remembered. I took a deep breath and slowly removed the locket from around my neck. With trembling fingers, I opened the small clasp and gently placed the locket on the bench beside me. For a long moment, I sat there, staring at it. Part of me wanted to keep it, to hold on forever. But I suddenly realized I didn't need it to carry Grandma with me. She was already there in every beat of my heart. I closed my eyes and made a wish. May someone else find this, someone who needs it. May they feel the same love I did. May they carry it with them the way I have. And with that, I stood up, tucked my hands into my coat pockets, and walked away. I didn't look back. I didn't need to, because I knew she was with me. Years passed, seasons changed. The park remained constant and quiet. One day, a young girl named Emily was walking through the park with her mother. She was only 6 years old, with golden curls and curious eyes. She ran ahead of her mother, skipping along the path. That was when she spotted it, a small silver locket, resting on the edge of a wooden bench. It glimmered faintly in the sunlight. With tiny, gentle fingers, she picked it up and carefully opened it. Inside was the photograph, two smiling faces, filled with love. Emily ran back to her mother, clutching the locket tightly in her hand. "Look, Mommy," she cried, holding it up. Her mother took the locket and smiled softly. "It's beautiful," she said. "Can I keep it?" Emily asked, her eyes wide with hope. Her mother hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, sweetie, I think it was meant for you." Emily slipped the locket around her neck. It was a little too big for her, but she didn't care. She clutched it with her small hand, feeling its warmth. And in that moment, Grandma's love, the same love that had once held me together, found a new home. It would stay with Emily, just as it had stayed with me. It would walk with her through life, guiding her through her own storms and filling her heart with the same quiet strength. And so the locket's journey continued, carrying love from one heart to another, creating an unbreakable chain of kindness, warmth, and hope. Because love, true love, never fades. It simply finds new hands to hold. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you. Truly, I poured my heart into this story, and it means so much that you've listened. If this story touched your heart, even for a moment, please subscribe and leave a like. It helps me share more beautiful and meaningful stories with you. And remember, love never truly leaves us, it simply changes form. It becomes the sun on your face, the wind in your hair, and the melody in your heart.